Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. It's Dom.
John.
How'd you know I did that?
Huh?
How'd you know I did that?
I didn't know you did that.
We are going to be reacting to scary stories. How'd your big ass get back all over there?
That's a strong ghost.
He's like, hefty.
He's like, I deserve this. I deserve this.
So we're going to be reacting to scary stories. We're trying to find one. We filmed this earlier, but the story was
Boring.
about a homeless guy living in a sewer.
So we're going to listen to 7 horror stories from
7?
Reddit.
Are we going to do that many?
Okay, well, as much as we want. How about we do, what's the scariest thing you experienced? Scary stories. Ask from Reddit.
See, that Reddit's the dark web.
Okay, well, let's listen to it.
No, but I'm saying when you go on your website to watch your videos, you're entering the dark web.
When they was banging on the wall, look at old child support. Story number 1.
For the month of October in 2016, I worked at Party City as a seasonal job. It was pretty hectic for the Halloween season, obviously. I got stuck with the night shifts on weekdays since I didn't have early classes. The location I worked at changed its closing hours on weeknights to 11 p.m. during the Halloween season. My shift would start usually at 5 and I'd work till close. The rush would die after 9, and after 10 there would hardly be anyone left in the store, especially on weekdays. On my shift on the day in question, I started work at what was referred to as a costume grabber. I would be told on walkie-talkie what costume and what size to grab so that I could hand it to the customer, and they could try it
Do you have
on.
a size 4X? This guy wants to be a
After I
happy man.
quieted down, later on in my shift, I was told to start cleaning up the aisles, restocking, and bringing stuff either up from or down to the basement.
Basement.
I got tired
Yeah, Party City
quickly
is
because
this.
there was a lot of walking up and down stairs. Past 10, there were only about 4 of us still working. A girl named Maria working the cash register, Kyle cleaning aisles and stocking shelves, Ashley the supervisor for the night, then me doing the back and forth basement work. The basement was at least connected straight to the upstairs costume storage room, so it wasn't a super long walk from the basement. I took a 10-minute breather, then went to continue lugging boxes from the basement up to the costume storage room. The lights in the basement had been turned off by someone. I figured Ashley. I flipped the light switch back on, and down into the basement I went. As I was lifting a box of girls' costumes, I heard something fall on the other side of the basement. Not to make you think this basement was really big, it was just one big circle full of boxes with a big shelf in the middle. I put down the box I was holding, and slowly peered my head around the shelf. There was someone in a white hooded robe costume with a scary monster mask. Of course, I jumped back at first, then I laughed, saying, "You got me." Whichever of my coworkers was in the costume didn't speak, though. They just tilted their head to the side a bit, as if they were still messing with me. I had a feeling it was Ashley at first, even though she would supervise some nights. She was a clown. But then I realized this person was way too tall to be Ashley, so it had to be Kyle. I tried approaching him to remove the mask. He just backed away from me, though. Then I looked down at the boots on his shoes. The dirty, heavy work boots that I knew for a fact Kyle wasn't wearing. I started getting the shivers.
Kyle doesn't wear
I
those.
went back up the stairs without running to avoid suspicion. I shut the basement door and went straight to Ashley, who was talking to Maria by the register. I asked, "Where's Kyle?" And he literally called "What's up" from the nearby aisle. That's when panic set in. I asked if there was anyone else working that night. She said everyone went home. So I told her someone was in the basement in a costume who didn't belong there. Kyle and Ashley came with me to the basement so I could prove it to them. But like any cliche horror scenario, whoever was down there was gone. There was a back exit in the upstairs costume room for unloading truck shipments. It was possible the intruder exited through there. Ashley sped through the security footage of the past hour and didn't see anyone enter the costume room
Like she's
except for me.
LP or
But there
something.
wasn't a camera in the basement or the actual costume room itself to check that. Part of me felt like it was a prank, and that if I went back down there, I'd find the person in the costume again. But my job was my job, and I had to get back down there to continue stocking the costume room.
That's a
dedicated work.
When I got back down there, I
Well,
once
what?
again picked up the box of girl costumes I originally was trying to bring up, got it to the stairs, and stopped because I thought I may have heard the noise of a small plastic bag being slightly crumpled. Of course, I didn't want to stay down there to find out alone. I wasn't getting paid enough. My shift was almost over, so I lugged the heavy box up the stairs, dropped it in the costume room, and went back to the doorway of the basement to shut off the light. Before I did, I looked down the staircase, and at the bottom was that person in the white robe costume again. Only this time minus the mask.
Oh, there's a video for us to see.
I saw
Oh,
his
shit.
face, his smiling face looking up at me. I slammed the door shut and ran out to Ashley and the rest, screaming for help. They came as fast as they could to the costume room, but the back exit door inside was wide open, as was the basement door. This time, for real, he was gone. The one camera in the outside delivery area didn't even catch him. I don't really know if that intruder managed to steal anything other than the costume he was wearing.
My leg.
For all I know, it could have been just one big Halloween prank. Or he might have been in there looking to actually hurt someone. For all I knew, it was an armed robber, though, and I treated the situation as though my life were in danger.
Story. Creepy shower horror.
Creepy shower horror stories will be the next one.
You know when you're washing your hair and you start seeing the exorcist image in your
Where you
head?
feel like hands coming out of your face.
Okay, I never felt that before. That's when you need Jesus right there. Jesus.
Jesus, wash my hair.
We're just gonna press play. We're just gonna continue.
Selected in the racing team of our college, and we used to have practice classes twice a week after school. Our tournament finals were coming up, and that evening, my coach wanted me to do 10 extra rounds after class.
Damn.
I was wrecked by the end of it and hit the showers in the locker room. I turned the water on and just let it fall over my body. It felt nice, and I lost track of time. I must have been in there for around
My coach
20
came in
or
and was
30
like,
minutes.
"You want some of this?"
All of a sudden, the lights went out. There were no windows, and I couldn't see anything.
Rewind that part.
It was pitch black. Around 20 or 30 minutes, all of a sudden, the lights went out. There were no windows, and I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. I tried to yell out to my teammates, "Anyone here?" But no one answered.
I'm naked.
I actually couldn't hear anyone else. Maybe they had already left. I blindly stepped out of the shower and found my towel, which was hanging on the other side of the stall. I wrapped the towel around me and called out again. "Anyone here?" No one answered. I tried to find my way out of the showers, but I slipped and took a hard fall to the ground.
There goes the season.
I tried to get up,
Damn tournament.
but I hurt my knee. It hurt so much that I could barely walk. Suddenly, I felt the cold hand on my shoulder. Who is it? Coach? Is that you again?
Is that you again?
Then I heard a girl.
Not today.
Is it again? 10 extra laps? Then that ass.
I can help you.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson.
I was frozen shocked. The girl sounded just like the voice of my little sister, Kira.
Kira! What you doing at
wasn't
university?
possible because Kira died in a car accident last year.
Oh! Oh, Kira.
The laugh also sounded just like the same goofy, high-pitched giggle that Kira would make. I didn't know what to do.
I didn't know
The
what to do.
mysterious girl helped me to my feet as we began to pace out of the showers. I could tell that the girl was shorter than me and lanky, just like Kira. She smelled like old crayons and bubblegum. While
Bubblegum.
we were walking, I asked again, "Who are you?" But
Obviously,
the
it's
girl
Kira.
didn't answer.
Kira's
We
like, I've
must
been
have
gone
walked
for a
for
year
a
and you
minute or
forgot me.
two.
Jeez.
And then the girl left my side. Goodbye. No, wait!
Bye. Bye, Felicia.
There was just silence.
Girl, get down.
The lights came on, and I was in the middle of the empty locker room.
Wednesday, get down.
I crept towards the front door. And just then, the coach came in surprised.
Ah.
Are you okay?
You
What
alright?
happened to your leg?
You want me to rub it for you?
It really hurts,
You want a little bit of
I said to her
Hey.
as
tell me,
tears
tell me.
ran down my cheeks.
her cheeks? And very disappointing the story
Hi
was.
guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. It's strange but oddly comforting.
Okay. True scary stories about Bloody Mary. It's only 2 minutes long, people. You don't stick around. True stories about Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary,
One
Bloody
day,
Mary,
I was
Bloody
on
Mary.
my way back from a school party.
Lights.
I was with my friends, but please keep in mind I was only 20 years old. We were drunk, so we really didn't know where our Uber driver was taking us. He took us through this road called Sonora in California, and everyone in the car knew this road had a very upsetting story behind it. We didn't care, since we were all drunk, and it was 3 a.m. We just wanted to go home.
Now, how do you remember the story?
At what seemed like the end of the ride, the driver stopped at the side of the road and let in this girl. She sat in the back seat of the car. She claimed her name was Mary.
She better pay for
All
her
of
own
our
Uber
hearts
ride. That's
dropped
all I
when we
can
saw
say.
she had a dress on.
So Bloody Mary has her app to get an Uber driver.
Okay,
It
it's the
was a
21st
white
century.
dress. She also claimed that her husband dumped her on her wedding night. She said she was trying to find a ride for 3 hours, but she couldn't since it was too dark outside. When I got a good look at her, I was shaking because she was tearing up blood. I whispered to my good friend Dominic. I told him about the Bloody Mary story. I told him that it took place on this very road and that the girl might be a ghost. Right as I finished that sentence, she looked at me through the rearview mirror with her bright, white eyes and asked us if we were talking about her.
No.
My heart dropped
Another
once
Bloody Mary.
again. We asked the guy to pull over, but he insisted on dropping us off at our location.
I
One of
still
my
want to get
female
paid.
friends in the car started crying after Mary started reciting all of our names from the back of the car. We were scared because we didn't tell her our names. Now everyone in the car was crying except for me. It felt like we were driving forever, but it had only been 10 minutes. It got
Then again,
brighter
he's
out,
drunk.
and we realized that no one was in the back.
She just dipped out of her Uber
It was a
ride.
night spirit that was there, and it left because it was now morning. The next morning, I thought about what happened while I was taking a shower. When I looked in the mirror,
Oh, yeah, hickeys on his
I
neck.
saw a scratch on my neck.
That's it.
Wow. Still not scary at all.
Very disappointing, scary story.
Very story has been very disappointing.
Just tell your story.
Mine was disappointing like their story. 5 scary demon and possession stories.
Sounds promising.
So probably we'll try them.
An hour and 56 minutes long.
What is the one?
It better be.
Are you scared?
Silas
shouldn't be.
Galloway
You should
found
be on
London
scared
thus far
tactics.
most
Kid.
rewarding. His work provided more
I'm
than
gonna
enough
say.
in the way of coin
How
to
do you
fund
always
his
know what I'm gonna
increasingly
say?
Why, are you
lavish taste
scared?
and extravagant lifestyle. A modest yet exquisitely furnished country manor
he has
set
an
deep within the
accent.
rolling hills of Somerset was his to call home, and provided the ideal backdrop to host his latest business venture. Personal wealth, however, was no longer the prime motivator for Silas. That had been surpassed by the craving for the intoxicating sense of reverence he seemed to generate wherever he performed. Adoration was his new drug of choice. The bulk of his clientele was grief-stricken people having usually suffered a recent loss. They were also generally blessed with deep pockets.
I don't even
In
have any
their
pockets.
eyes, he held all the
I'm wearing
answers.
shorts.
I got stretchy
Payment of
pants.
a
I ain't
few
got no
sovereigns
pockets.
mattered little when Silas was able to grant an audience with the deceased. Silas was, however, a fraud. His ability to communicate with the spirit world
Liar.
was merely a parlor trick. He could no more speak to the dead than he could walk on water. The idea had struck him in earnest one morning, long before he found his fortunes. Walking familiar streets, stomach empty, the previous night's cold still chilling his bones, he happened upon a funeral procession. A widow, attired in black and overcome with grief, had fainted directly at his feet. Clumsily, he gathered her up and slapped her face gently in order to rouse her. The funeral party had drawn to a halt and gasped at the apparent assault taking place upon the woman. Yet, no one had rushed to her aid.
They never do.
Warily, she had opened her eyes. Silas had seen her reason and sense of duty and was quickly restored. "I'm dreadfully sorry." She paused, searching carefully for her next words. "Sir, I am quite out of sorts today, for my husband was taken from me not 3 nights ago." Tears
Like
had
an
welled in her
elevator.
eyes. She trembled as grief took hold once more. "Your husband must have truly been a great man, for all these folk have come to pay their respects." Silas had motioned towards the surrounding mourners. "However, my
Saw
lady,
someone washing dishes behind
I
us.
believe although he has passed from the mortal plane,
Keep washing dishes.
he
No,
will
he didn't.
continue to watch over you for the rest of your days." Surprised, for he was unsure as to why he had found the words of comfort so easily forthcoming, Silas had blushed and nodded a farewell to the woman. A gentle smile had flashed across her lips, and she reached for his hand, leaving a gold sovereign upon his upturned palm. "For your kind words," she had whispered. And with that, she turned to retake her place behind her husband's coffin. A whip lashed loudly, and the horses had resumed their trot towards the cemetery. Slowly, the idea of trading comfort for coin had begun to take shape, and over time he honed his technique into a fine art. With some basic showmanship and a warm manner, he had become one of the region's finest and most respected mediums. What had begun as an innocent gesture of kindness
Okay, stop
was
yawning.
quickly replaced with the necessity to lie and cheat
Now you're psychic.
for as much coin as possible, as tastes of the elegant and exotic took hold. Silas discussed at length the possibility of using one of the famous talking boards that were popular with mediums and spiritualists all over the United States. It was a great personal expense that Silas procured one of the first Ouija boards to enter Great Britain.
Ooh,
Lady Martha Appleby, her daughter Marcy, and Sir Henry
Marcy.
Lloyd were due to arrive at his parlor shortly. The lady was positively overjoyed at the idea of using the new device. The board sat positioned in the center of a grand oak table, each letter elegantly styled, with the planchette set aside awaiting the touch
of the inquisitive. Scattered candlelight completed the mood, allowing enough illumination to fall over the table, but shrouding the remainder of the drawing room in an uneven darkness. A storm was developing off to the south, which would further add to the ambiance of the evening. A sizable amount of gold was already promised to Silas, and he was confident that the scene would produce more. The wine grew warm and the polite small talk faded. An expectant hush befell the drawing room as all eyes turned towards the small wooden board. Each placed a finger onto the planchette, eagerly waiting for communication to be established. Are there any spirit persons among us who wish to make themselves known?
I am the great and powerful Oz.
The deafening silence followed. Ask again, please, requested Lady Appleby, shifting in a seat.
I'm already asked the question.
If there is anybody with us now that wishes to communicate, please step forward. The sound of scraping wood came from the board. All eyes watched as the small planchette edged its way towards yes. Lady Appleby clapped. He's doing that.
Bravo!
Are you not? Demanded Sir Henry. Silas swallowed hard. He was not exerting any notable pressure upon the object. Indeed, it was his plan to move it himself, but only upon the third time of asking. Building suspense was all
demon
part of his
dog.
act.
Get down.
No,
Food here, get in.
Get down.
he replied. 'Tis the, it is a nameless spirit.
Get out.
He had paused, his usual veneer of calm failing him somewhat, but he assured
Yeah,
them
they're making out.
Sir Henry looked little in the way of convinced.
Okay.
Silas continued.
Give him 100.
Are you male or female,
You ain't
spirit?
asking those questions no more.
The planchette made its way towards the number 6. The group exchanged puzzled looks as the piece moved towards the number 1 and then returned back to 6. 6. 1, 6. What kind of an answer is that? Asked young Marcy. I'm confused. All eyes locked on Silas. Well, my lady, one can only assume our initial question is rather frivolous to this particular spirit. I suggest we continue in order to gather as much information as we possibly can. Sir Henry scoffed
Yeah,
dismissively,
butterscotch.
and was met with a disapproving look from Lady Appleby. For years, Silas had led his clients into a merry dance, filling their heads and hearts with messages from the silent spirits. Yet, he felt little in the way of remorse for taking payment so deceitfully, for his customers all returned home happy. Do you have a message for us, O Spirit? Silas continued, adding a little dramatic flair to the proceedings. Again, the planchette followed the familiar pattern of crossing 6, 1, 6. Sir Henry pulled his hand away angrily. 'Tis a lie.
Lie!
He plays us for fools in the hope of keeping us here long into the night. 'Tis a hunger for coin, is it not?
Drop that coin, girl.
The ladies removed their fingers abruptly, leaving a bewildered Silas touching the now motionless wooden tool. Of course not. I have merely opened the gates of communication to the other side. It is not I who decide what the spirits have to say. Then prove it for us, kind sir.
Well, damn, Mr.
Sir
Scrooge,
Henry.
hold on.
Ask the next question
What's
without
with
the
this
touch of
deal?
any upon the blasted
Didn't read the
thing.
instructions.
If it moves, I will pay for this whole charade
Move this
myself,
way. Hold on.
twice over. Ordinarily, this sort of challenge would require the use of one of his more dramatic parlor tricks. However, he knew he was not the one dictating the movement of the planchette, and he was fairly confident that neither were any of his guests. Ignoring the feeling of unease that crept into his belly, he decided to take Sir Henry up on his boast. 616 means nothing to us here, O spirit. Do you have something useful to tell? Silas asked as his eyes met Sir Henry's glare.
Don't touch.
The planchette began to rotate, gathering speed with each revolution until a faint, high-pitched whistle emanated from the center of the board. "Oh, my!" shrieked young Marcy. "Make it stop!" begged Lady Appleby, her hands covering her ears. The whistle increased in volume and pitch until it was barely audible, becoming a painful sensation that drilled its way into its skull. Marcy cried, and Lady Appleby mouthed something. Henry merely sat transfixed, eyes locked on the madness unfolding before him. There was a loud crack, and Sir Henry spilled backwards from his chair, screaming. The whirling wooden tool was gone. Sir Henry staggered to his feet, the left side of his face a mass of blood, wood, and gore. The planchette embedded firmly into his eye socket. In a rage, he tore it from his eye with a sickening squelch, grabbed the wooden board, and broke it across his knee.
What?
God damn you, Silas!
$25.
And your politics! I will see that you pay for this!
I'll unplug mine.
Spattered with blood, Marcy fled from the room screaming. Clutching his face and taking a weeping Lady Appleby by the arm, Sir Henry turned his back to Silas. I'm sorry, offered Silas, but the dark edge of the room took them from...
Pause.
Phone died.
Phone died. Sorry about that. It was getting really juicy, so let's do a recap what's going on. Doing the witchcraft thingy, they're playing with the Ouija board. That's very bad to do. Playing with it. Spirit comes through. It's not the husband, it's a demon. Throws homeboy to the back. Blood in the eyes.
How do you always know what I'm gonna do?
Maybe I have a Ouija board of my own.
A Ouija board or you're psychic? I think I'm psychic.
Why would you be psychic if I know what you're saying?
But it's not that you know what I'm saying, but we always do the exact same thing at the same time. And it's like, I know what you're gonna say. I mean, obviously I can't make it happen on my own. It just happens. Like deja vu.
frequented the house less and less. Yet, Silas pushed the strange occurrences to the back of his mind. When questioned about the strong odor of sulfur that permeated the property,
That's when you
he
have a demon in
pointed
your
to
house.
poor sanitation and heavy rainfall.
Girl, it smell like
When
boo-boo
the
in your
incessant
house.
scratching sounds were queried, he laid the blame on a particularly
that's
severe
scary.
infestation of rats.
Oh.
See that right
To
there,
explain
guys?
still was the
When you think you got a demon in your house, you
recurring
see that?
6,
You don't get scared,
One.
YouTubers.
6 that appeared etched into furniture,
What is it?
daubed
Knobs.
on
Oh, it's the knobs.
and lay cut.
Old Man Rogers.
As days blurred into nights and weeks passed with no sign of the mysterious activity ceasing, Silas became increasingly frail. Sleep seldom granted him reprieve. His dreams were haunted by screams of pain. Visions of hellish creatures scrambled toward his naked frame night after restless night. And he could no longer tell nightmare from reality.
Wow.
Sunlight offered
Possessed.
little retreat.
That's what you get for playing with the Ouija
Increasingly
board.
desperate whispers in unknown tongues
They don't put a warning on the
filled
box
his
for
head.
nothing.
Several voices clamored for his attention.
Haven't you
Yet
seen
all
Paranormal
he could
Activity?
think of were those
Alright, next video,
damn
please.
numbers.
Huh?
So for the next video, we'll play with the Ouija
His
board.
world was crumbling,
No.
and his sanity hung by mere threads. For a man previously so stout in his belief that the afterlife was a myth, Silas realized that his personal life had become a terrifying case study into the existence of evil beyond the mortal plane. Silas's associate and only remaining friend, Joseph White, requested a small public demonstration of Silas's skills after discovering how far he had fallen in health and morale. He told Silas that he deemed it necessary to get away from the confines of the increasingly dilapidated house and the terrible influence it seemed to hold over him. 1 week later, Silas feebly picked his way through the gathered throng towards the piled wooden crates that doubled as a makeshift stage. The Last Turnpike Tavern had served the residents of Beechwood since the late 1700s, and on that rain-sodden night, most of the village congregated in its vast cellar.
What's all that,
Highly
man?
anticipated public return. Air hung heavy with the smell of wet clothes and
Sorry
stale
about
beer.
that. Mr. Popular
A
over here.
hush fell upon the
I wanna
crowd
be
as Silas
popular.
took his place before them. Thank you, one and all, for sharing the spirits with me tonight, Silas said aloud, a slight waver in his voice, receiving a few appreciative nods from the crowd. Indeed, it has been a long time since I last communed with the deceased. He paused, not sure how to explain the terrors that enforced his absence, feeling an unnatural breath cold and rank on his back. He flinched, startling a few closest to him. There was a noticeable darkening within the cellar, and some chuckled nervously as Silas continued. Lest we forget that we, the living, have ultimate mastery over the dead.
Challenging?
The sound of tearing cotton echoed just before Silas let out a piercing cry, falling to his knees. Strips of red darkened his back and merged into one sopping blotch. Silas screamed again as his shirt tore once more. Strips of flesh flapped wetly across his lacerated back.
Damn.
The patrons fled as Silas's back opened into a bloody canvas worked upon by unseen claws. Muttering what little resolve they remained, Silas stood up and stumbled, crashing back to the stone floor. The few remaining onlookers backed away hurriedly as Silas pushed up the stairs and into the unforgiving rainfall. Joseph White remained in the cellar,
He left his ass
frozen
there.
with a mixture of fear and intrigue.
This is crazy.
He alone had witnessed the spectral attack in its entirety, his eyes now fixed on blood that glistened across the crates. Pushing disbelief aside, he hurried out of the deserted tavern after Silas. Although the rain lashed heavily at the cobbles, Joseph was still able to make out the trail of blood leading towards the barber's quarters further along the street. The door sat ajar, broken, and stained. A scream of anguish rang from within the darkness of the building.
Up to me. Damn that enchilada.
Joseph raised his lamp and moved into the room barber shop. Another cry from deep within the shop echoed through the corridor.
Taco Bell.
Like it's coming right through
Razor
me.
blades and scissors shimmered in lamplight as Joseph made his way deeper into the darkness. Something wet and rubbery caught under his heel.
That's cut shit.
He reached down and peeled it off his shoe. Stay the hell away from me! Silas screamed,
Oh.
then let a cry of suffering that rattled Joseph to his very core. The lamp illuminated a cowering Silas holding a razor, already halfway through the cartilage of his left ear.
Oh my god.
The side of his
It's going
face
all freaking Mike Tyson
gushing a
on me.
mask of red. I can still hear them. Make them stop. Make them stop. Make them stop. He wailed, continuing to work the razor through cartilage. Dread overcame Joseph as he looked at whatever he had stepped on. A severed ear fell from his trembling hand. Silas held a freshly removed body part up to the lamp, grinning pathetically. I can still hear them, he cried. I can still hear them. Dr. Rutherford was proud of his patients. He believed in the quality of mental distress. His beloved Arlington Asylum elevated his practice from a mere hospital for the mentally disturbed into a pioneering center of psychological research. His interest had heightened at the news of a patient's arrival, one who demonstrated signs of demonic possession. Nonsense, of course, but another prized research subject nevertheless, and one he was eager to get his metaphorical teeth into, considering how many doctors had given up on the man, transferring him from institution to institution. The patient's cell lay on the deepest floor of Arlington Asylum, a necessity for some of the more vocal and dangerous.
Kevin keeps getting in the trash.
This is Mr. Galloway,
It's a bag of chips.
said one of the
He's a
burly
baby
old
raccoon.
ladies.
He should have been a raccoon
You
for
may want to
Halloween.
be careful with him, Dr. Rutherford, he added,
a bit
unbolting
squeamish.
the thick iron door.
He's out. Be careful with him.
Silas
He's a bit
curled
squeamish.
into a tight ball in the corner of his cell, frantically chewed at his wrist. A small pool of blood formed at his side when he rocked back and forth, eyes fixed at nothing. The walls were coated in excrement, and the numbers 6,
Boo-boo in here.
1, 6 were daubed onto the dull gray brickwork. The smell of feces and copper hung heavily in the air.
Would I lie
Treat
so
his
well?
wounds and restrain him, Dr. Rutherford said. I recommend heavy sedation. If I deem him as unfit for study, as I suspect he may well be, we'll arrange for a lobotomy. The orderlies nodded. Silas continued to suckle greedily at his wrist, his eyes appearing empty. He shook, as though his head rang with a never-ending chorus of the damned.
Still copying me.
I didn't copy you.
It's like I went like this and you went like this.
We're saying the same story. Hell's bells.
Jet, stop! Turn off. Stop! We have our own light crew over here. Stop, Jet.
I'm posting this from a masked IP at a public
Okay, so
location.
that was the first story.
Okay, so we're gonna stop at that because this video's already too dang long.
Yeah, 35 minutes long.
Well, we still have the other part that we recorded earlier.
Let's do 2 separate videos.
So I'm gonna do 3 videos?
How many videos do we have?
This video and a pinata video.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guys, those were not scary stories at all. Maybe Jonathan will tell us some of his scary stories. He has a few.
Maybe. I don't know.
I have some scary dream stories if anybody wants to hear those.
To make a 3rd video, so you get 3 videos.
You gonna tell them right now?
No,
Okay.
you can do your dream stories.
Well, I'm not gonna do it today.
Are you tired?
I don't want to be wearing the same outfit in every single video I post.
Alright.
Let me go change my shirt.
Alright, we'll look for more scary stories that are scary for them. We'll listen to them.
Alright, guys. Thanks for watching our video. If you like us reacting to stories, comment below if you want us to react to other stories or videos or
Anything.
anything going on in the world.
And give credit to
That guy.
this guy for the video, for his story.
Thanks, guy.
This guy. Your story was not scary, but
It was good content.
check him out if you liked it.
Alright. Peace out.